Good afternoon and welcome to UK Column Live, and we're bringing you this afternoon an update on Roger Hayes, the chairman of British Constitution Group, who's currently in prison in Liverpool, having been arrested early Monday morning and within a matter of hours imprisoned for withholding council tax. I've got on the line at the moment Danny Bamping, who's been in contact with Roger and been into the prison to see Roger, and Danny will give us an update on what he knows. So, Danny, can you tell us what happened in court yesterday?
Well, it's called a civil justice centre, that's what it's called. It looks like a massive box of Jenga, and went in there at 10 o'clock yesterday morning and applied to have the hearing. They knew I was coming, and at 25 past 10 they listed it for 11 o'clock, and 35 to 40 people turned up for Roger and myself, or Roger really obviously, but to support the hearing, and sat in the back, and you know, and basically before we went in the hearing, more security was called from G4S, the court security company. And then when we came out of the hearing, there were several police officers, or policy enforcers, police officers, whatever you want to call them. And that indicated to all of us that the decision really had already been made before we went into the hearing. Justice Hickinbottom heard the hearing, and basically I laid down the application and the fact that it breached Roger's human rights, breaches common law, it breaks several statute Act of Parliament, the process wasn't followed, and all this kind of stuff. But even the European law, which I stated about Protocol 4, Article 1, which states no man should be imprisoned for owing a contractual debt. And I really emphasised that point, but he threw it out on saying there's no contract for council tax. And even though other people have the interpretation or the view that the orders made by the courts, like a liability order, are in fact contracts, which in a sense they are, that's not how the judge or the state interprets the situation.
Right. Okay. So how do you see things moving forward now?
Well, I'm not sure whether we can appeal that decision. I did ask the administration department at the place yesterday, but even they weren't sure. So that needs a little bit of looking into. Can we appeal that decision? Then we could serve another habeas corpus in London.
Yes. Are you still there?
And, yeah, with maybe some amendments. Serving another habeas corpus in London, which some amendments might help. As far as some people are concerned, that's the only true High Court and the only true Queen's Bench Court where a habeas corpus can actually be heard. But obviously, with time and location restrictions, we did our best yesterday. It didn't quite come off. But I'm sure that mantle can be carried. I think the other thing is, which the judge pointed out and kind of gave us a little bit of direction.
Right.
He was basically saying that yesterday that because Roger has not set aside any of the liability orders that have been issued in his name, then therefore the process that the court, if you like, or the council court, because it is the council that hires the court as the venue to do these hearings, is followed as far as he was concerned. And so that's a real bit of a wake-up call, I think, to quite a few people. And I did mine 2 or 3 weeks ago, which is quite ironic, is that having a bankruptcy hearing coming up, knowing that they're going to rely on our liability orders to put the case. And I didn't want that to happen, obviously, so I'm trying to have them set aside and void, which Roger has done, or or we do, because we can still apply for these on behalf of Roger because I got him to sign a couple of N244 application forms to do so. So if they could be served in Birkenhead or Liverpool Magistrates Court on Monday with a certificate of urgency on the front, then there's a potential that they could be overturned quite quickly and therefore Roger would be released. But I think the key is, Brian, and everybody else listening, is that if Roger is released before the end of his 21 days term, and he's 4 days in now, then it really will show that enforcement of council tax is not enforceable. So if we can get Roger out in the next 17 days, it will be a massive, massive victory. And I think we should do everything we can to do so. Unfortunately, I can't do much more after today because I'm going away for 8 days.
No, well, we understand that, and we're grateful for what you've done, and of course there are other people in the background who are offering support and help on this. I wonder whether we can just bring things back to some of the fundamentals in this, and that is, I've got on screen in front of me now a copy of Roger's statement of truth, which he wrote when he was in prison. So he's giving a step-by-step account as to what happened to him. And of course the thing that Roger is saying is that from the time he was arrested, he was then, in his words, at my forced attendance at the Birkenhead Magistrates Court building. So he was forced to attend that hearing, and he is describing an administrator for the hearing, and saying that the man who was actually in that magistrates court was known to him, and that he had been in front of that individual several times previously. And Rogers says, I claim that these previous encounters mean that there's no prospect of me receiving an unbiased and balanced consideration. So the point that we've been trying to get out to members of the public is the fact that here we have a man who's arrested, he's held for 3 hours or approximately 3 hours by the police. Then he goes into a court with one man to make a decision. There is no jury, and it isn't just one judge. This happens to be somebody else who Roger has appeared in front of on numerous occasions, and each time Roger has been able to defend himself successfully. On this occasion, of course, he is then simply committed to prison with no jury, no members of the public, and no press present. Was Roger able to sort of tell you a bit more about what actually happened inside the court?
A little bit. I mean, basically he wasn't invited to attend the committal hearing, which happened on the 26th, and that was because I think that obviously the council didn't want him there because they wouldn't have been able to get the committal order then to issue the warrant for his arrest. And I believe that when Roger was arrested on Monday at 7:30 at his house, he wasn't served a copy of the warrant. He didn't have a court stamp on it, or indeed any signature as far as he could see, but he didn't see it for very long because it's just kind of passed under his nose, and then he wasn't served it, he wasn't given a copy of it. They arrested him on that bit of paper, then they took him to the processing thing, and then eventually in front of the judge, and he had Judge Abelson, and Judge Abelson has come across Roger on council tax about 4 or 5 times in the past, and every time Roger's won, if you like, or stalemate, or not had improved any authority, etc. And basically, from that perspective, Abelson was the biased judge for Roger to be put in front of. And when Roger eventually did get in front of him, the exchange was very, very brief, from what I understand. And he was asked, "Are you Roger of the Hayes family?" And Roger replied, "No, I'm Roger." And apparently the chap said, "Well, Roger, you're going to 21 days committal, incarceration," whatever the wording was. And before Roger could kind of form any kind of defence or speech, he was ushered out of the court and prison.
Yes. And this, of course, is a fundamental point that Roger, as chairman of the British Constitution Group, has been campaigning to warn people and help wake people up to the fact that the basic protections that we all have under our Constitution, that we can't be fined or imprisoned unless we've gone in front of a jury of our peers. This is all being swept under the carpet by both the Labour government and the Conservative Liberal government. So we are witnessing a ongoing attack on our Constitution and important principles of common law which give us protection. We're now, of course, seeing the government starting to attack the House of Lords, which, although we may, or people may have some concerns at the way hereditary peers can sit in the House, nevertheless the House of Lords has provided protection over decisions made by Parliament. But we're now getting to the point where we have a Parliament which is making statute law on the hoof, and we now have senior politicians such as Mr. Ken Clarke that are calling for yet more British courts to simply contain a judge and no jury. And really, Roger has been one of the outspoken people on warning what this could do. It's ironic, or maybe it was inevitable, that at some stage the system which he's been trying to expose has now turned round and used that perversion of power to actually pick him up and put him through a court with no jury, no public and no press, and to subsequently imprison him. The other thing which we raised in our last broadcast was the fact that, and you confirmed this, was the fact that Wirral Council was not even using the advice of their own legal team. The whole of the process to arrest and imprison Roger had been conducted simply by the department of the council that deals with council tax. And
yeah, and I think it's interesting to note there, Brian, is that they actually admitted that to me on the phone. And not only that, the whole process to get Roger has been kind of vexatious. You know,
yes.
I'm sure that in law there is a thing about doing vexatious litigations against people and stuff. And this has been targeting Roger to really make a point out of him, I suppose, and make him an example to others. And as long as he stays in there, they're winning. And I spoke to the MEP, Gerard Batten, earlier, and he raised it in the European Court House of Parliament thing, and you know, he didn't have any response in there, but now he's very angry because he knows about the habeas corpus. I went on his Facebook page and posted the videos and stuff and said we need to speak, and we did, and he was very positive. He wants to take action. He wants to write letters, Justice Secretary and all the correct people, even the warden from the prison, and ask for him to, you know, clemency or pardon or whatever we can do.
Yes, it's very interesting, isn't it, that Roger's case within a matter of 24 hours can be mentioned in the European Parliament, but here in UK we've at the moment got no positive action being taken by British members of Parliament. And we've also got, as I've just mentioned at the beginning of the programme, we've got a stunning silence by the local press. I think we need to give the Liverpool Echo a special mention, because the lady who spoke to me was very happy to say that the fact there had been a failure of due process in this case, the fact that a man was in prison without a jury or the press or the public being present, she said this isn't really of interest to our readers. They're more concerned with their rubbish bins. Now this lady wasn't being sarcastic. I really believe she believes this herself, and this is really a shocking picture of the dumbed down nature of national press and media. So we're seeing it with the local newspaper. Of course, we're not seeing anything reported in the mainstream media. But the other point is that believe as yet we have absolutely no reaction from MPs, including Maria Eagle, who I believe is Roger's local MP. Have you heard anything about action by his MP?
No, I think we need to get in touch with them. This is the thing. I think we need to wake them up. Half of the people aren't even aware that Roger's there, purely because it's not been in the national media. One of the last things I'll do before I leave is write a brief press release and send it to all my media contacts, including the PA press wire, which email address is copy@pa.press.net. And that, get it on the news wires, half a page of A4, just laying down the basis of the story. And I think the hunger strike thing, papers love controversy, and Roger obviously follows it round quite well, or that it follows him round. And so I just think that we should play on that, and also the fact that obviously he's been unlawfully detained, and no due process hasn't been followed, and the councils have some seemingly control over Roger. Not only his legal fiction, but now his human being, flesh and blood body.
Yes.
And I think the key is here, Brian, is that we've got a lot of people who really want to help Roger get out as soon as possible and punch a hole in the system and prove that he can't be locked up. Council tax. Unless we release Roger, they win, basically. We've got 17 days to do it. And I think there's some key people who've got some great ideas and know a lot about habeas corpuses, like Guy Taylor and Mr. Chris Jarvis and John Hurst, who have always been instrumental in putting the paperwork and the ideas forward to try and get Roger out. And I sincerely hope that you can all work together in the next 17 days. I'm not going to be here for 8 days, so my job is done as much as I can, and I really sincerely hope that fight continues, and the more support and the more people that come on board, the better.
Right, okay, thank you very much for that report, and I will leave you there, and we'll speak again shortly.
Okay, brilliant, thanks, Brian.
Okay, thank you, Danny.
All right, take care, have a good weekend all.
So really, Danny Bamping has summed that up quite nicely for members of the general public, viewers that have come in to watch our broadcast this afternoon. I think the thing which the UK column would like to emphasise is that whether or not you agree that it was right for Roger Hayes to withhold his council tax, what we are now seeing is that in Britain today, a member of the public can be imprisoned on the simple say-so of a department within a local council. And if we look at the fact that with Roger Hayes we're dealing with withholding relatively small sums of money, at the other end of the scale we've got organisations like Barclays Bank that are able to manipulate interest rates which cause vast problems for very large numbers of people. And yet at the moment we're seeing absolutely no move to deal with those people. So at one end of the scale, the state can imprison Roger for a debt, which is something that basically under common law is itself unlawful to do that. We have the state now able to take people's children away from them inside secret courts, and we know from our own experience and the experience of other people who've been trying to help these families, this is not one or two children. A child is being taken from their parents every 22 minutes. So we are now living in Britain 2012, where inside the secret courts we are taking children and imprisoning people. It is no good us looking for a solution within the judiciary themselves, because we see steadily, it's like the drip of an anaesthetic, we see the fact that individual judges are being given more and more power within a closed court. The correct term for this is a star chamber, but unless we, the general public, can see justice being done, Britain is rapidly moving into a dictatorship. This is not hearsay, it's not fiction. We are witnessing it on a day-by-day basis. And the insidious thing is that the British press and media at the moment seem to be so dumbed down that they are allowing this to happen by neglect. They're simply not bothering to report these key issues. Wheelie bins are more important. Or the media is itself being manipulated. And one small point I'd like to comment on is the fact that an organisation called Full Fact, that's F-U-L-L, Full Fact, was happy to report, following our initial report on Roger, that he'd been through a secret court. We have an organisation funded by major money from the Nuffield Foundation and the Roundtree Foundation and Esme Fairbairn. We have an organisation which says that any reports that Roger has been through a secret court process is fiction and conspiracy theory. Well, we're not dealing in fiction, we're dealing in evidence. It is a fact that Roger has been imprisoned by going through a secret court process. And although we have challenged Full Fact to justify their report that this is mere theory, of course there has now been a stunning silence. So it's extremely interesting that bodies which have set themselves up in order to police the quality of journalism and media reporting, when they are challenged as to their own reports, we are met with a wall of silence. So for those of you who are keen on research, perhaps you might like to look into Full Fact as an organisation. It's very interesting to see the people, the connections with the Media Standards Trust, which we know has been trying to control the press, and also from Full Fact has been presenting joint evidence at the Leveson inquiry. I've just been passed a note to say that Roger's MP, Ms. Eagle, has actually replied now with Robert and been in touch with him in the prison. So we're going to say, well done, his local MP. We've now got some movement on that side, and we will see how this develops. I hope that Ms. Eagle will be able to understand that if we don't stop what's happening, it is going to affect every man, woman and child in this country, including her and her colleagues in Westminster. Thank you for tuning in today. We'll leave it there, and we'll have another update as soon as we have the next amount of information on Roger and his imprisonment. Thank you for joining us.